Giants only mock draft. It's April 4th, 2025. This is Talking Giants presented by SeatGeek. Welcome. My name is Justin Penik. I'm really excited for this mock draft. I usually don't do a ton of mock drafts. This may be one of two that I do. Maybe I'll do a little bit more. Got to see how the month overall develops, but I am really, really excited for this. I like the players that I've taken, and also I like the approach that I'm taking, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But first, I kind of want to thank everybody that's reached out. I won't lie to you. It's been a rough week. I'm kind of grinding out this mock draft, and I kind of took a lot of Thursday doing it. So I want to I'll sit down on Friday and kind of bang out some messages. And really, thanks everybody that it's kind of reached out, and I appreciate you thinking of me during this. So appreciate you. But doing a mock draft, this may be a better YouTube experience. If you go back and forth between podcast and YouTube, I'm going to be adding graphics. I'm going to be adding some visuals. I'm going to be adding film. This could be a better of a YouTube experience, but if you're a podcast-only person, then don't worry. We're going to make it podcast-friendly as well. Here are the rules. I'm doing no trades, and I'm using the PFF Mock Draft Simulator, which I like. And the main reason why I'm excited about this mock draft is the approach, where typically in past years, it's kind of random, and you're always thinking to yourself, this player's not going to be there. I'm kind of approaching this draft where, especially my round 2 pick, I'm like, all right, this player's probably not going to be here. And here's why. Because I'm taking a trenches approach, and particularly with the 5 premium picks that the Giants have in this year's draft. Now, you could say 3. They have 4 top 100 picks. They have 4 top 105 picks. Maybe you only consider the 3rd pick, the 34th pick, and the 65th pick, because that 99th pick is the compensatory pick, and then the 105th pick is a 4th round pick. So maybe you don't consider the comp pick and then the 105th pick as premium picks, but they're close enough to the top 100 for me that I consider them kind of premium picks. I want the Giants to address the trenches with those picks. Now, here's the other side to that, right? And why I like my approach so much, but I have a feeling about something. Last year, there were 6 quarterbacks that were taken in the first round. There's not going to be like this run on quarterbacks in this year. I think you can confidently say there's going to be 2 quarterbacks taken, maybe 3 with Jackson Dart, and then maybe another team feels that good about Jalen Milroe or Tyler Shuck, right? But I would be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if Jackson Dart's taken. I'd be shocked if another one's taken. So that's 3 quarterbacks at most, right? Two definitely. The wide receivers are a little bit weird for me this year too, where Travis Hunter, who is not even a full-time wide receiver, is seen as the number 1, and I think I would kind of agree with that. Even how raw Travis Hunter is as a wide receiver, I still think that he would be the number 1 wide receiver. It's not that the wide receivers are bad. I just don't think a lot of them pop off the page. Like I kind of like Luther Burden as a guy that maybe with the highest ceiling, but his production kind of slipped this year, and that's a wide receiver conversation. But there's not going to be there's not like these Romo Dunze's, Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr., Brian Thomas Jr., those were the clear studs that you knew that those guys were going to go early. That's not really the case this year, right? So where I think the attention is going to be put is with offensive line, in particular tackle, but there's also some tackles that are being talked about. Are they too short lengthwise, and then arm lengthwise? Do they belong at guard? So that's a debate that's happening with a lot of spots. And then, defensive line, interior defensive line, and especially edge rusher. I mean, I think those are the premium positions that are going to go, and I think they may fly off the board this year because some other positions, and even a premium position like quarterback, that's not going to go. And you learn every year with the NFL certain trends, and teams that have success in the playoffs and teams that have success in the Super Bowl, you learn things, right? And one of the things that I feel like you learned this year, seeing the Philadelphia Eagles, win their second Super Bowl in how many years, take care of the trenches, man. Take care of the trenches, and everything else is going to get a whole lot easier. And I think now the NFL is going to look at, how has Patrick Mahomes now lost both of his Super Bowls? The Kansas City Chiefs that are totally indestructible. Patrick Mahomes, that's so elite, so good, that can play in different styles, that can play the explosive offense, but also check it down and get rid of the ball quick when he needs to. Like, he can literally do it all and do what he wants whenever he wants. But what has been his kryptonite during his 2 Super Bowl losses? Well, it's been the offensive line and the pass rush absolutely kicking the shit out of him in a Super Bowl and in a postseason game, right? So I think the NFL is going to look at that, and not that it's always been obvious that you need a good offensive line and a defensive line, but I think putting more of a premium on premium picks and premium positions with the offensive line and the defensive line, that's my theory on what's going to happen this year, especially, again, when you consider that there's not going to be this run on quarterbacks. And I think the opinions on wide receivers and who the top wide receivers are, I think it's so different. And I see a lot of differing people with a lot of differing opinions, especially when you have somebody who is headlining, like Travis Hunter, as the number 1 wide receiver and the number 1 corner, and he kind of plays both sides, and that's a guy that's so special that he hasn't even been able to focus on one position in his college career, and that's the guy that's headlining everything. Maybe it's a reflection on Travis Hunter, don't get me wrong, but it's also, I think, a reflection on maybe the state of this class. Yeah, you have your top guys, and then there's a little bit of a fall-off. You have your blue-chip players, but then there's a little bit of a fall-off. So what is the NFL going to do? Bet on the premium positions, bet on the offensive line and defensive line, and that's what I'm doing in my mock draft. So I've yapped enough. Let's get to it. Let's get to the 3rd overall pick of the 2025 Justin Penik Talking Giants mock draft. I'm going to be taking Travis Hunter. He's 6 foot, 188 pounds, went to the University of Colorado, 21.9 years old, so he's turning 22 years old soon. So I'll talk about some stats with Travis Hunter first, and maybe just some scouting report stuff, and then I want to have like a big picture conversation about him. So as a wide receiver, some of the stats that I kind of wanted to just pluck out there: he was 21st in yards per route run overall. He was 7th in yards after the catch per reception in the short part of the field, 4th in yards per route run in the short part of the field. That's 0 to 9 yards. I really like that. It's kind of where Colorado kind of like to live their offense. Shedeur Sanders had a pretty high, completion rate, pretty high adjusted completion rate. That typically means that your average depth of target, like, Jackson Dart's just slinging it down the field, typically means, that Colorado offense was a little bit more operated in the short part of the field. He's elusive and slippery after the catch, has an insane catch radius and insane ball skills. Like, the ball skills that he uses as a wide receiver, that's how he wins as a cornerback, which brings me to the cornerback notes. The range and the burst are elite. Again, ball skills. It's elite. It's why we're talking about Travis Hunter. I feel like as a blue chip prospect, he has 31 and 3/8 inch arms. That's in the 47.6 percentile. I feel like there's this threshold in the NFL as the years have gone on. You kind of see guys that, if their arms are shorter than 30 inches, they have a hard time succeeding in the NFL. If their arms are longer than 30 inches, odds are they're going to be good. They're going to be all right. And his arms are about average, which that's a check in my book. 2 things that are, a little bit negative, or maybe things that he has to work on. He has long legs and limbs that do not help Hunter flip his hips effectively or efficiently. I think staying lower and playing lower is something that he should try to do. It's, the old saying in football that the lower man wins. You want better leverage. You're in more control of your motions when you play lower and when you play with better leverage. And then I think you're also limiting contact too, as a corner, where, if you're kind of not in control of when you're flipping your hips, and you're not in control when you're trying to stay in phase with somebody, then you may get a little handsy, you may make too much contact. And those are, again, just some, I guess it's some nitpicking stuff with Travis Hunter, but I also don't fully think it is. I think he could sometimes have trouble at the release with quick moves off the line, with more complex releases, but the stuff that you really like as a corner, the 20% forced incompletion rate, the 6th lowest passer rating allowed. Big picture stuff. Hunter's main trump card is being a playmaker and being a ball hawk. Why he has elite potential as a corner, it's because of what makes him, again, best at wide receiver. He knows how to attack the ball when it's in the air. I think there are some overall rough and raw aspects of his game, especially as a receiver. But the fact that he's ranked this high and there is such a consensus high opinion of him while being this raw in a good amount of areas goes to show how dynamic of a playmaker he is. I think he's even a little rough around the edges. Again, like I said, as a corner too. I don't think it's as perfect as people make it seem, but I don't want to overcomplicate it. Hunter's a unicorn. This rarely ever happens to not just have someone play both sides of the ball, but both sides of the ball, and there is a consensus of people saying that he's the number one wide receiver and he's the number one cornerback. And then also, you got to think about this too. You got to think that throughout his college career that he split practice time too, right? Now, I asked this question today on Twitter. I kind of tweeted out, I knew that I was going to take Travis Hunter third overall, in this mock. And I'm wondering, okay, so what does his practice look like? How much time did he deviate and split up from cornerback to wide receiver? Because, again, you got to think of the NFL, and my overall impression and why I'm drafting Travis Hunter is to be a cornerback that can get 10 to 20 snaps as a wide receiver. I think that could be cool with Russell Wilson, by the way. I think Russell Wilson or even Jameis, whoever's throwing the ball, either one of those guys, giving Travis Hunter an opportunity to make a play, or even if you're playing off coverage and Travis Hunter, you just want to put him on a drag or a crosser over the middle of the field, or a dig, something like that, maybe over the middle of the field, and then you get yak. I mean, that's money. That's what you want, and that's what every offense needs. It's what this Giants offense desperately needs. Is not just somebody that's fast and can run in a straight line, but also can be slippery and good after the catch. Neighbors is that. Didn't really get a chance to fully see it from his rookie year. I think quarterback play is a huge part of that. You got to throw with anticipation, and you got to throw in where guys have space and stuff like that. And that just hasn't been the Giants offense over the last couple years, especially with Daniel Jones. But Travis Hunter's going to do that. Travis Hunter's going to be a guy that's going to bring that yards after the catch and the explosive plays and the explosive play potential that every offense in the NFL should want and need. But in terms of his practice time, right? Asked that on Twitter, and I had my guy James Cardy, he replied and said, Jordan Reed, of ESPN, stated in the mock draft last week with the Athletic podcast that he was in the corner room, and then he got individual signals on offense which told him what routes to run, so he wasn't even given full offensive play calls. And that makes sense too. And I think a lot of the talking points as to why Travis Hunter's raw as a wide receiver is because I don't really think he was given a full chance to run the full route tree. And I think that's also just an approach of Colorado too, where the more that I'm watching, Deion and Shador and Travis Hunter, there are certain games where they're down big, like BYU. They're down big in their bowl game. And Oklahoma State, they win that game 52-0, and the game's over by the time the second half comes. What do you typically do when you're getting blown out, or the game's basically over because it's garbage time, right? You run the ball, you buy your time, and you end the game, right? Deion, and I think this was a Deion thing. I don't think this was a Pat Shurmur thing, because Pat Shurmur was the OC at Colorado. They would stat hunt. Garbage time, it don't matter. Shador is getting his stats. Travis Hunter's getting his stats. And that I think that was a Deion directive. So you're sitting there waiting, and especially in that Oklahoma State game, because you see that box score and you see the headlines that come out after that game's over, and you're like, Travis Hunter cements his status as Heisman favorite with this 9-catch, 11-catch, 3-touchdown performance, and you're waiting for the touch. You're waiting for all this. I'm like, this all happens in the second half, and the game's over. So that's more of like a Deion thing, and in a way, stat hunting. I think it's a positive for Shador, because you're not going to be stat hunting and all this kind of shit in the NFL. You're going to look to win the game, and you're going to look to stay on schedule, and that's the kind of offense that Shador needs, is to stay on schedule. But neither here nor there. If that is, true, which I think it's true, and that makes sense because of the routes that Travis Hunter was kind of given, where a lot of it would just be if he's playing off, if there's teams that are playing off coverage against him, he's just running crossers or drags over the middle of the field. Like that's I feel like mostly what Travis Hunter would do. And there's some times where he would run these digs on the sideline and he creates separation. It's like, whoa, let him do that a little bit more. Or he runs streaks down the sideline, and then Shedeur would do a pretty solid job with all these receivers of, giving them a chance to make a play on the sideline. Shedeur puts decent touch on the ball too. So that's kind of like what Travis Hunter would do as a wide receiver, and I think that's why he's considered raw there. But in terms of him as a corner, again, I'm a little surprised to see why people aren't so, willing to call out. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I see raw aspects of his game as a corner too, but because of how, and again, it's repeated over and over again, but because of how elite his ball skills are, even if he's losing on a certain play, even if he loses the release at a certain point, the fact that he can find and track the ball, and hey, there's going to be corners that are in bad positions all the time, but if that throw ain't perfect, or if that throw ain't with total anticipation and totally in front of a wide receiver, Travis Hunter is going to have a chance to make a play on that football because his burst and his range are elite. I think he could fit in a cover one scheme. I mean, Shane Bowen ran a lot of cover one. There's certainly a question on what happens with Deonte Banks, but that is a question that I'm willing to, all right, let's think about that during the months of May, June, and July. Travis Hunter is fun. He's elite. Things that I think he has to work on, but as he focuses more in the NFL on being a cornerback, and he's not going to be out there for 140, 150 plays a game, especially during the months of September and October where the weather can still be 80 degrees depending on where you go, 90 degrees depending on where you go. There's some hot games at MetLife in September. You're not going to be playing 140 snaps a game. You're going to be playing 60 of them on defense, 70 of them on defense, and then I think 10 to 20 on offense. And if he could focus more on a corner and lock down and kind of focus on that, I think this guy could be a stud. And that's not a surprise there. So that's Travis Hunter, third overall pick of the 2025 Justin Penik mock draft, Travis Hunter. All right, we're moving on to the second round of the draft. The Giants have the 34th pick, and with the 34th overall pick, the New York Football Giants are selecting Josh Connerly out of the University of Oregon. He's 6'5", 311 pounds, 21 and a half years old. He is a tackle. This is the guy that I don't think is going to be there with the 34th overall pick. I believe consensus-wise, he's 36th. So, never say never. I even really conflicted, should I leave Josh Connerly off completely? Because, again, I just don't think he's going to be there because of the trends that I think we will see in this year's draft. Like my overall theory that I talked about kind of at the top of the show. But I took him, again, because consensus board and, the NFL draft scouting world has had a lot of time to at least make up their top 100 and top 150 boards. I'm sure the sleepers are going to rise and fall as the month goes on, as people watch more and as more people are releasing their full draft boards, right? Like Dane Brugler, I don't even know if he's released his beast yet at this point. So, there's that to kind of consider. I included Josh Connerly because you never know. You never know. But, I think Josh Connerly has an argument for maybe tackle 3, tackle 4. If you want Membo 1, and do you like Will Campbell? I like Banks out of Texas as well, even though I think he could be a little bit raw, but I kind of like the rawness, right? You sometimes don't want somebody that's so refined, but you want somebody with traits that maybe you can get them on their team, and then you can refine them a little bit. But Connerly is a pretty overall refined player. He's really light on his feet, and he's quick out of his stance. His hand usage is awesome with well-timed punches. He jump sets looking to kill the will of the rusher early on. It's probably the thing that I like about it the most, kill the will. He's going to dictate the rep with his strike. Even if the initial hand placement isn't great, he's going to look to reset, redirect, and get in a good position. He's very aware of stunts and twists, had some really solid reps and results against Abdul Carter, where Abdul Carter, got him a couple plays here. But, in Abdul Carter, you can even look at that matchup with him against Josh Connerly and see some positives as to why Abdul Carter's a freaking stud. But Josh Connerly got really, really good results. Here is also some advanced stats. Tied for second in pass blocking efficiency and true pass sets. One of 9 tackles to allow 4 pressures or less out of draft-eligible players in true pass sets. He's a 2-year starter at left tackle. He lined up at both left tackle and right tackle during the Senior Bowl. Great recovery with athleticism. Needs to not overset and protect against some inside moves. Anchor and power is the main question with Josh Connerly. How much ground is he going to give up at the point of attack or against speed to power rushers? And I think this is fully shown, and there's no better example of this as to Marshall's Mike Green, who isn't the biggest guy in the world. But Marshall's Mike Green just got him at the Senior Bowl, and it just trucked him. There was no speed going around and bending around the edge. It was just 1v1 in a 1v1 drill, and Green just trucked him. And it's like, that's a little bit of the question with Josh Connerly, but it's a shame that Connerly was the recipient of that awesome Mike Green rep because Josh Connerly had a really good Senior Bowl week, and I think Josh Connerly's a really good player as well. In terms of his fit with the Giants, whether it's sitting on the bench for a year while Illuminor plays right tackle, or even, the Giants flirted with this last year. If they feel like Connerly could be ready to start at right tackle right away, then Illuminor goes to guard. I think Illuminor is looking at some of the contracts that other guys on the team are getting. Not going to lie. Like, you look at the, I think it was James Hudson that got like a similar contract that Illuminor did. Illuminor's got to look around the NFL and see what others, tackles that aren't that good, by the way, and offensive linemen that aren't that good. The numbers and the money that they're getting, and he's got to be sitting there being like, well, I deserve a little bit more, and he's only under contract for 1 more year, so are you going to extend him and pay him? I think Illuminor is a good player, and that's a guy that I want back, but I'm not going to have his presence at right tackle prevent me from taking a tackle if it's there. Again, a premium position. And if I think this guy's good, it's not going to prevent me from taking that guy at pick number 34. So Josh Connerly it is. I think he's good. There's some questions about power. He's 21 and a half years old. Maybe you can get better at that. Maybe you can get stronger. But I think the technique overall is really good. And I think right tackle, you can kind of hide. It's easier to hide some of the flaws that you have at right tackle. This is what we said about Evan Neal. But this goes with any tackle. I think it's easier to hide stuff at right tackle as opposed to left. And at the end of the day, Andrew Thomas, injury history there. You kind of have to bank on Andrew Thomas maybe missing a couple games or a stretch of games at some point. You draft Josh Connerly. He has 2 years of experience at left tackle at Oregon. While his size isn't great, 6'5", 6'4", his size isn't great. He has that experience at left tackle. He has quick feet, can get out of his stance, and does some good stuff. I don't know. I think that's not a bad move for you if you need that guy to move to left. Even if he can't do it his rookie year, if he can certainly do it down the road, that would be the goal for a guy that you draft in the second round. So Josh Connerly, I really like him. I also don't think he's going to be there. It was Nate Tice's father. Why am I forgetting his name? I think he was a former O-line coach. On the Football 301 podcast, that they had Nate Tice had his father on for an episode, has Josh Connerly as the number 1 tackle in this class. And I'm like, you know what? That partially fully doesn't surprise me. I think I like Membo a little bit more, and I think I like Membo better. But I think there's no debating. Connerly is a tackle, whether it's the left side or the right side, and I think he's going to be pretty damn good. So that's my second round pick. All right, let's move on to the third round. The Giants have the 65th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. Something that I learned today, and thank you to I gotta give another shout out to somebody that sent me a DM. Shout out to Johnny T, who asked me, Justin, just curious if you know why the Giants, Browns, and Titans flip-flop in the draft order for the second round. The Browns get the first pick, Giants get the second, and then the Titans third pick. And you see in the first round, it goes Titans, Browns, Giants. In the second round, it goes Browns, Giants, Titans. And if you notice, the Giants have the first pick of the third round. And here's why, and I'm reading it directly from the NFL rulebook. You're learning something new today. I guarantee you didn't know this. Maybe you did, and good for you. You know ball. After the selection order for the first round of the draft has been determined, clubs originally involved in 2 club ties, and in this case it's 3, will alternate positions from round to round. In the cases of ties that originally involved 3 or more clubs, the club at the top of a tied segment in a given round will move to the bottom of the segment for the next round, while all of the other clubs in the segment move up 1 place. This rotation will continue throughout the draft. So if you were wondering, why do the Giants have the first pick in the 3rd round and they don't have the first pick in the 1st round, or the first pick in the 2nd round? That is why. It's because these teams rotate. And that is cool. I didn't know that, so now you know. So the Giants have the 65th pick of the 3rd round. It is the first pick of the 3rd round. And with that pick, I'm going to be taking Alfred Collins, interior defensive lineman, 6'6", 332 pounds, from the University of Texas. He is 23 and a half years old, 91st percentile in arm length. And oh boy, he used those hands and arms. Stack and shed, stack and shed. He had a consensus rank of 62, so I'm getting a little bit of a steal here at 65. Powerful player. Power, power, power. Notice I like to say things in 3 when I truly believe it. He gets out of his stance well. He tosses dudes out of his way like they are freaking children. You want a run defender? Here's a guy that's going to stop the freaking run. He uses those hands so well. I want Andre Patterson to work with him, and I think it's scary to think that it can get better for him. He has a wide base and long arms, so double teams aren't a death sentence for him. Does a great job, and I think this is because of his long arms, does a great job keeping his head on a swivel, trying to find the ball carrier, and it shows. He was 12th in total run stops this year out of draft-eligible players. Utilizes a nasty swim move as well against the run. He also had 6 batted down passes from this past season. Cough, cough, long arms. Average depth of tackle isn't great, so his highlight run stops are awesome, but I do think Collins is, again, a little bit more of another raw player who may need work and refinement on becoming more consistent. But insert Andre Patterson, insert playing next to Dexter Lawrence, and this is something that I'm getting from NFL.com that an NFC personnel director said. He's a legit specimen. With the right coaching, he can end up taking off and becoming the best interior player in this class. I don't know about that, but I think he's a specimen, and I think he can become. His ceiling is, one of the draft buzzwords. I do think that Alfred Collins really does have the potential to be one of the best interior defenders of this class. But at least right away, he's not going to bring much as a pass rusher. That's the thing. The pass rush productivity really wasn't there throughout his career. I think he can use his power, the same power that he uses as a run defender, to stack and shed and to not get his ass kicked in double teams. You got to think that maybe he can transfer that power into bull rushes, right? That you can, again, transfer all that energy and all that aggression there. And what's nice is that, hey, that's going to be a guy that if you have out there, you can bank on that he's going to get batted passes too, which if you're not going to get home with the quarterback, that's one of the next best things. So that's the thing. You're not going to get much of him as a pass rusher, and I recognize that. But fix the damn line. Stop the freaking run. Like, make it a priority, man. Where I was debating, and as we're going in this draft, I think you're seeing that on YouTube that I'm showing, and this is one of the benefits of watching on YouTube, I'm showing the 5 guys that were taken before the selection that I make, and then 5 guys after, so you can see that. And one of the guys that I debated on taking was Omar Norman Lott. And there's some other really good interior defenders that, I passed up too. I think 34 and 65, that's the range that the Giants have to walk away from with an interior defensive lineman. Whether that could be like a Darius Alexander at pick 34, but this is the range, because I think just based on where the boards line up and what, where at least consensus-wise where things are going, this is where you can grab, I think, a difference-making player. And I think Alfred Collins, while you kind of want somebody, I get it, with the premium pick, you want somebody that can maybe get after the quarterback, The Giants have people that can get after the quarterback. They have Brian Burns. They have Kayvon Thibodeau. They have Dexter Lawrence. They even have Chauncey Golston that can line up from the interior and rush the passer there. So Alfred Collins doesn't need to be a player that's on the field for 3 downs. And in best case scenarios with these pass rushers and with these defenses, you don't want guys that are on the field for 60, 70 snaps. You want guys that are fresh. You want guys that can get in there with fresh legs and kick offensive linemen's ass that are out there all game and that are playing 60, 70 snaps themselves. That's what you want. And Alfred Collins, the stuff that he shows as a run defender and as a run stopper, it's incredible, man. It's incredible. And I think playing next to Dex, where again you're when Dex is getting double teamed on the interior, you're not getting double teamed when you're playing next to him. So it's going to be pick your poison. Do you want to double team Alfred Collins with these long ass arms, and he's 330 pounds and he's 6'6", and he's going to shed you and he's going to throw you away like a child, like he was doing to other grown men, grown sized men in college, or do you want to double team Dexter Lawrence? It's pick your poison, man. So that's why I'm prioritizing a run stuffer with pick 65, because he's really freaking good at it. It would be nice to get somebody that can do both. I know I think CJ West or West from Indiana. I may be getting his first name wrong. He's kind of a guy that I think can do both. But one of the reasons why I didn't take him here, consensus board-wise, he's down a little bit further. Maybe I thought that I can get him later. I didn't wind up getting him. Spoiler alert. But I really like Alfred Collins. Dude can stop the run. He tosses guys around like they are children. And I love Alfred Collins. I'm a big fan. All right, here we go. We are on to the 3rd round, the 99th pick in the draft. This is the compensatory pick that the Giants got for this year. As I burp, excuse me, that was gross. With the 99th pick in the 2025 NFL Justin Penik mock draft, I am taking Damian Martinez, running back out of Miami. He is 21 years old, 6 foot, 217 pounds. I drafted in fantasy this year. Insane pivot. I drafted this year. I had a backfield and a tandem of James Conner and David Montgomery. I was able to wait. I kind of did like the 0 running back approach, and I was able to wait on these guys. And I can't tell you the appreciation that I formed for how both of these dudes run the ball, especially David Montgomery. Now, David Montgomery has the Detroit Lions offensive line that's freaking awesome and everything like that. But still, just the way that they approach running back, it's efficient. They make guys miss, but it's nothing flashy. Where typically I'll come in here in years past in draft previews, and I'm talking about explosive run rate is the best stat that translates to NFL success as a running back. And I still think that. Like, James Cook was probably one of my favorite running backs that I've looked at over the last couple years that were realistic for the Giants to get. I'm not talking about like Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson and shit like that. Out of all the running backs that were maybe the most realistic for the Giants to get, and James Cook was back in 2022, I use kind of that explosive run rate stat. It's kind of like a justification of that he led out of all draft-eligible players that year. I'm pretty sure he was number 1 in that explosive run rate. And lo and behold, James Cook has turned into a really fine player, and it took him a little time to get there, but he's turned into a really fine player. Why I bring up James Conner and David Montgomery? They're kind of old school backs. They're kind of a little bit bigger. They kind of do things a little bit more gritty. That's freaking Damian Martinez, man. Old school's back, right? We're running the ball a little bit more. We're grinding out drives with running the ball a little bit. A little bit. I'll concede on that a little bit. Damian Martinez was 3rd out of all draft-eligible players in yards after contact per attempt this year. Lance Zierlein wrote that he's concrete in his pads. He's got concrete in his pads because he's decisive, he's powerful, he's efficient, and he finishes. He's a finisher. He has a relentless attitude. Going to the ground is a suggestion for him, and he doesn't like your freaking suggestion, man. This is what I love, these two stats. Highest success rate in the FBS on 3rd and 4th and short. The highest success rate when contacted behind the line of scrimmage in this class. You want to prevent negative runs, right? If you're contacted behind the line of scrimmage and you're a tackle for loss or a no gain, sucks when you run the ball. Because I think one of the goals should be when you run the ball in the NFL, you don't want to be tackled for a negative gain or you don't want to gain nothing. You want to stay on schedule. I think that's what the running game really should do in the NFL in the long haul, right? And Damian Martinez, I think, is that type of back. Again, like James Conner, David Montgomery, think those guys and how efficient and effective they are, but also how nasty they can run too. And even though the top speed may not be there, the lateral movement to find space is awesome. He's patient. Sometimes he can be too patient, but he's patient. Here's what I love. He has this play style at just 21 years old. This isn't a guy that has 400, an insane amount of tread on his tires from his college years. And he's like, oh, well, I have this aggressive mentality because I'm 23, 24 years old, and I'm going up against 20-year-olds and 21-year-olds, and I'm kicking the shit out of them. No, he's kicking the shit out of everybody at 21. He did it last year, too, at 20. He's one of the strongest backs against stacked boxes in this class as well. Negatives is he isn't the quickest, and certain moves like jump cuts, they can be gradual. The long speed isn't there. But I think if you're a team that drafts Damian Martinez, you kind of have to know what you're getting from him. And 80% of his yards came between the tackles. That was the highest rate in the FBS. If you're running outside zone with Damian Martinez, I'm going to be like, what the hell are you doing? Like, the guy's not fast. He's not going to... His time spent behind the line of scrimmage, if you're asking him to run outside zone and outside the tackles, it's going to be a lot. And that's where the efficiency may hurt. So, I don't know if a guy like Damian Martinez is a fit for, the 49ers, for example. Ran a ton out of the shotgun in 2024 and then more under center in 2023. So I think, again, that's important to note, too. When you watch his 2024 stuff, so much of it comes out of the shotgun. I think getting under center in, these single back formations where, maybe he can get more momentum under his belt running inside the tackles, I think that's going to be a good thing. I think that can maybe make him more efficient. Damian Martinez plays nasty. Damian Martinez plays with power. He, again, going down to the ground for him is a suggestion. I love Damian Martinez. I think he is an underrated sleeper running back in this class. Where is he consensus-wise? I did not look at that. Let me look at that very quickly. So consensus-wise, he's 115th. I took him with the 99th pick. I think that 115th is only going to go up. He's peaking right now. His peak position on the consensus board is 115th. Book it. It's going to go up. And Damian Martinez may even be taken before the 99th pick. That's how confident I am in him to be a good NFL running back, because I think he's got it. I think he gets it. Let's go on to the fourth round. All right, just 6 picks later, with the 105th pick in the fourth round of the 2025 Justin Penik Talking Giants mock draft, I am going to be selecting Ashton Gillotte from the University of Louisville. 6'3", 264 pounds. I don't know his age, but he's been with Louisville since 2021, so I'm going to presume that he's somewhere around 22, 23, maybe he's 24, but he didn't transfer, I don't think. He's been with Louisville the last 4 years, so I'm going to guess 23. Yes, it's pronounced like the ice cream, like gelati. I believe it is. The biggest thing with Gillotte is he plays with power. The 5th highest win rate in true pass sets among draft-eligible players. He was 2nd in hurries in true pass sets among draft-eligible players. 9th most QB hits among draft-eligible players. Active, heavy, violent hands, and he's always looking to chop. Chop those hands away from you. Hands are active. I love it. Even works some swim moves every once in a while, too. He rushes the passer as both an edge rusher and interior defensive lineman from the University of Louisville. Maybe he could do that at the NFL level. Speed to power with one-arm stems and a bull rush combo. Really does a good job collapsing the pocket when he does that. So, again, I think he can do some bull rushes, but then I think he also turns speed into powers, into those one-arm stem reps, and that's how he does a good job collapsing the pocket. This is a get guys on your team that can win. One of my draft wins from a couple years ago was Nick Herbig from the University of Wisconsin. He went to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he's had a tremendous amount of success. And if it wasn't for the presence of Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig, I think, could be the second edge rusher on that team, and I think he could be a guy that could get close to double-digit sacks on that Steelers team. Anytime he gets an opportunity to shine, he fucking shines. And why I was so high on a guy like him is because he won. Like, you just look at the win rate, you look at the production, you look at the hits, and Herbig won. And that was a guy that was like being like mocked and projected to be like a day 2, day 3 pick. I think day 3 clearly. And I'm like, why? You know, he's young, he's raw, I get it, but he wins. And I think Jelani wins in a similar way. And we're talking about a guy in the 4th round, and typically you're kind of against maybe drafting edge rushers not in the 1st round, because usually it's the hit, the guys that hit in the 1st round that are edge rushers usually hit, and they're big. And those are the ones that are the best. Now, Yaya Diaby is also a good example, coming from the University of Louisville, who he was kind of like this raw, powerful player too, has arms that are 2 inches longer. We're going to talk about Jelani's arms, because I think his arm length is a concern. And I think that may be one of the reasons why a team like the Giants may look away from him, because I think they value some of those traits, especially in a Shane Bowen defense. But, Yaya Diaby was a guy that I think was taken either late day 2 or early day 3, sometime during day 3. He came from the University of Louisville, and you just watched him, and he won, and he was good. And I think, you watch a guy like Jelani, and he's powerful. And why I'm taking him in this Shane Bowen defense, despite knowing in the back of my head that the Giants may not want him, the main reason why is he has really short arms. He has arms that are in the 6.9 percentile. That's really, really, really freaking short. Why I'm taking him, though, he's a powerful player. Not a guy that's just going to win with speed. And seeing what worked for Shane Bowen in Tennessee, like I think of like Danico Autry and Simmons, Jeffrey Simmons. Those guys were powerful, man. Harold Landry's he's a powerful player. Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau, they're not that powerful. They're guys that are fast, that are going to try and do different things. And I think Kayvon's a guy that sometimes likes to play like he has power, but he doesn't have all the strength in the world. Get guys in here that are strong, and I think that's exactly what Chauncey Golston is. I think Golston's a strong player, and Gelati's really good too. Talked about him a lot as a pass rusher, but I think he can set a strong edge too, as a run defender as well. Shows motor and power in the run game as well. 7, 9, and 5 sacks the last 3 seasons, respectively. But overall, I think he's improved as a player year to year. Get guys on your team that can win. And that's what this Ashton Gelati pick is from the University of Louisville. He's a bigger guy, too, at 264 pounds that we're going to put on the edge. I like that. Get guys that are powerful. It's the short arms that I'm worried about, though. Like, it's going to be a lot harder to do that one-arm stem shit when your arms are so short in the NFL, and a lot of these tackles, their arms are longer, and everybody's more powerful, and things just get more difficult. So there you go. That is my 4th round pick for the draft. All right, I'm going to kind of run through the last 3 picks a little bit quicker, because it's day 3. It's day 3 of the draft. We did what we needed to do. With our first 5 picks in the top 105 picks, I got a cornerback at Travis Hunter that can also play wide receiver. So kind of, a little bang for your buck there. 2 birds, 1 stone. Don't tell PETA. Josh Connerly working on the trenches of the offensive line. Alfred Collins working on the trenches of the defensive line. Damian Martinez, I feel like could be an awesome number 2 to Tyrone Tracy and a great complement to Tyrone Tracy, because I think he is a different type of runner than Damian Martinez. And then I got Ashton Gelati. Hey, for those people that, you got to acknowledge edge and let's make the pass rush a little bit deeper. Well, we just did in the 4th round. So the next 3 picks of the draft, here we go. The 5th round, 154th pick of the NFL draft. I have the New York Giants selecting, or I am selecting for the New York Giants. Let's go back to the trenches. Why not? For one more time. It's Seth McLaughlin from Ohio State, center, 6'4", 304 pounds. This is a projection pick. He is coming off of a torn Achilles. I think he did it late in the season for Ohio State. But who he is as a player, he's an intelligent center with a ton of experience. Plays with really good technique. He can really move out in space. Now, I don't really consider that as like a oh my God, that's why you have to draft a guy, especially a center, because how often are centers really running out in space? Hey, there's a really good John Michael Schmitz highlight from this year where I think it was some sort of screen where he's running out in the open field. He just clocks somebody and leads to a big play for the Giants. So it does matter, especially if it's somebody's really good at it. He was the glue of Ohio State's interior offensive line, and his presence was really felt in that Michigan loss where Mason Graham kind of tore everybody up. Was Mason Graham probably going to have a great game? Yeah, even with Seth McLaughlin in there. But I think he was a glue. I know he was. I know he was. I did my fucking work. Glue of that Ohio State interior offensive line. And, I was at that game. You really did feel that there was a presence that was missing as Mason Graham kind of just destroyed everybody. He recognizes and picks up stunts and twists well. He has some questions about his play strength and if he will allow a pocket to collapse. He previously had issues snapping the ball at Alabama, but he fixed that up. I think he was playing in Alabama for 2 or 3 years prior to this past year, transferred to Ohio State, but he fixed that up, snapped the ball just fine. Also, he has great aura, because here's a picture of him smoking a cigar on the sideline. So he's got great aura. Seth McLaughlin, it's a day 3 pick. You're kind of throwing darts. This is a guy that I think would go a lot higher if he didn't actually tear his Achilles. So why not take on a little bit of a project? The Giants have names on this offensive line. They have a good amount of depth. It's not great, but they have a good amount of depth. Why not draft a guy on day 3 who's coming off a torn Achilles that, showed good stuff as a player? Why not? 5th overall pick, Seth McLaughlin. Welcome. All right, the Giants do not have a 6th-round pick, so we're going to move on to the 7th round and the 219th pick of the draft from the University of Clemson. I'm going to be taking R.J. Mickens, safety, 6 foot, 199 pounds, again, out of Clemson. A little bit of an older prospect at 23.8 years old. He's going to be turning 24 soon. He's the son of former NFL pro Ray Mickens, if that makes you feel better. Consensus board ranking of 224th. I'm getting him at 219th. Shows some nice instincts pre-snap and post-snap. Some of his interceptions look like he's really trying to bait the quarterback, which is nice. Shows a little bit of a high IQ. 59.6 passer rating when he's targeted. He wraps up and he's down to bring the boom as a tackler. It's not incredibly nasty or violent, but he's not afraid to get his nose dirty. And a stat line that I like is 2 interceptions, 5 pass breakups, and 7 passes defensed this past season. I like that he's got NFL lineage in his blood with Ray Mickens. I think he was a former Jet. He was a former, DB as well. He shows some good stuff on his interceptions. I like how he comes up and plays, these bubble screens. He's aggressive, wraps up well. Not the most physical safety that I've seen, but R.J. Mickens, a guy out of Clemson, maybe you want to check out. The last pick that I'm going to be doing for the Giants, it is the 246th pick in the 7th round. I believe it is one of the last picks in the draft. Pretty close to it. I'm going to be taking linebacker from the University of Florida, Shamar James, 6'1", 222 pounds. I don't have an age. He was at Florida the last 3 years, so another guy that I'm going to project is 22, 23. At the Senior Bowl, he stood out. This is I loved you at the Senior Bowl, off-ball linebacker, and you stood out. And I'm going to tell you something about Shamar James. I have never had an off-ball linebacker really stick out to me in all my years that I've been going down to the Senior Bowl. Now, maybe this year was really unique because probably this year more than any other year, they ran the ball a fuck ton, and it was very annoying. It's like, I'm here to watch these quarterbacks. Let these quarterbacks throw the ball a little bit. They were running the ball a lot. When Shamar James was on the field, the offense would have success and it'd be a good running play. When Shamar James was on the field, successful play for the defense. And Shamar James was all over the field where his instincts were there. He would flow well with the play. He would recognize things well. He would shed blocks well. So I'm watching this guy, and I'm looking at his size too, 6'1", 222 pounds. I'm like, if this guy is playing with such good instincts and I'm like, I can't wait to watch his film. I can't wait to watch his tape, and everything like that. The tape isn't that impressive. I'm going off of, what I saw during Senior Bowl week and those practices and those instincts. He's good. He's a good player. There's a reason why, he's going in the 7th round. There's some good stuff. What I was really disappointed in at 222 pounds, his combine and athletic testing really did disappoint me, considering his lack of size. I mean, that is really, really small for an off-ball linebacker. But what I didn't really get to see at the Senior Bowl, I mean, I saw some 1v1 stuff where he's, really keeping up with halfbacks and tight ends, and he's making pass deflections there. But he had a really impressive interception off of Cam Ward, and his coverage stuff is actually pretty decent and pretty good on film. So that was the one thing that I really did like. Oh, this guy is actually a pretty decent coverage linebacker. That I guess maybe in a pinch, he won't be such a liability in that regard in that area. But he's really small. I'm taking this guy because he was like the first off-ball linebacker to like jump at me out of all my years that I've been down there. Because I'm not looking for off-ball linebackers to perform that well during the Senior Bowl. Like why would you, in a way? Why would you? Because it's not really about that. Because it's not real. You can't tackle and all that kind of shit. So Shamar James, look into him. He had an interception off of Cam Ward that was really nice, and he dominated down the Senior Bowl, and I really liked him. That is my draft. Let me know what you think. I'll run through it again. Travis Hunter in the first round, Josh Connerly in the second round, Alfred Collins, interior defensive lineman in the third, Damian Martinez, running back also in the third round with that comp pick, Ashton Gelati, edge rusher from Louisville in the fourth round, Seth McLaughlin, center in the fifth round, and then my 2 seventh-round picks were safety, R.J. Mickens from Clemson, and then Shamar James, linebacker from Florida, was my last seventh-round pick. So I think that's going to do it. I wanted to talk about, and I'm not going to lie, it's 12:34 in the morning right now, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to, because I wanted to talk about this. I'm going to talk about Russell Wilson's contract details and shit like that. Maybe I'll get to that sometime this month or sometime this summer, whatever. But it was kind of news that came out a couple days ago, and it kind of got swept under the rug because Russell Wilson is guaranteed $10.5 million, but his total contract is $21 million. So that was kind of like, oh, that's a little bit surprising. He can earn up to $21 million. How can he do that? So the update that I want to give is we found out Albert Breer was the one who put in an article, what he has to do to earn up to $21 million. A lot of it is based on matching his stats that he put up with Pittsburgh last year. And he did that in 11 games, by the way. So that would either involve Russell Wilson being benched if he's not going to play all 17 games, or if he's going to get hurt, which that's what it was last year for the Steelers. He got hurt over the summer. Justin Fields kind of started the year. They started out a little hot. I think they went like 3-1, and then eventually, Russell Wilson kind of came into the fold and came into the mix, right? So that would be, I think, the only reason why Russell Wilson wouldn't get 17, or they draft Shedeur Sanders and they have a plan for him. If he plays 17 games, I think he's going to earn a lot of those incentives. And what's nice is that since it's unlikely to be earned, since these incentives, they are slightly more than what he got in 2024. I think he can earn them. Some of these, pretty easily. But some of them are also unlikely to be earned because he didn't do that last year, and he hasn't even, some of the incentives he hasn't even done, some of the benchmarks he hasn't even done the last couple years. So it's going to count against the Giants' cap hit next year. It's not going to count this year. So that is the nice thing in 2026. So there's some playoff stuff in there too. If you make the playoffs and you have a certain passer rating, and for every start that he makes that results in a Giants win, that you can earn up to X amount of dollars too. So it's a lot. It's a lot to kind of digest. I may go through it a little bit more, but I wanted to give you an update. It basically is structured on doing slightly better than what he did with Pittsburgh last year. But you got to remember, what he did with Pittsburgh last year was 11 games. So, all right, that's going to be it for me. I think we'll be back on Tuesday. I don't know what we're doing yet. Don't know what we're doing, but we're going to have a lot of fun. Appreciate everybody kind of sticking with me. This was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing this. I hope you all had a lot of fun watching it. So we'll see you on Tuesday. Thanks for watching. I got to get better at outros. That's my next challenge. See ya.